Hey guys, what's up? Tom here, back with another episode of Fountainhead's Jukebox. And this is where I share pieces of music with you guys that I like a lot, that have been on my playlist, and that I think may hold one or two beneficial lessons for you guys as well. So today we are talking about the song Howls by a band called Agent Fresco. So Agent Fresco is a Scandinavian band, Icelandic, I believe, and they are often categorized as part of this whole Nordic prog movement. So I don't know if there's a movement, if there's a scene for that kind of stuff, but there are different bands that have very similar traits, very similar characteristics. One of them being Leprous, who have a similar mix going on of metal, prog, and pop influences. And all of those bands have this very melancholic feel. They have very high-pitched androgynous vocals, big poppy hook lines, but also a knack for like Meshuggah-influenced rhythmic, polyrhythmic thingies going on. So that's definitely, all of those things are true for Agent Fresco as well. But they do have their own sound. They do have a very different sensibility to them. Like, you can hear it right away in the intro when the guitars first come in. It's not distorted guitar, it's fast guitar. It has this very warm indie rock sensibility to it. Even though it's playing, somewhat complicated, maybe Meshuggah influenced polyrhythmic idea. And the whole sound of this is interesting. You have a very controlled pop low end with synth bass. Then you have these fuzzy indie rock guitars. You have the very pop high-pitched vocals, which are extremely catchy and likable. I do admit it's kind of a acquired taste, but I love it. I'm all for it. And then you have this somewhat typical Scandinavian orchestration with strings and brass instruments, which works perfectly because the brass is just bright and shiny and adds to something which I call the lift-off factor, which may just be a personal thing, because this song has become kind of a ritualistic one for me. Now, every time, for 3 or 4 years, every time I will go on a plane, I will make sure that this song is on my phone, on my headphones, so I can listen to it while the plane lifts off the ground. It just has a feel to it that, to me, screams lifting off into the air. I don't know why, but from the production and orchestration choices, I can kind of see where I get that feeling from the song, because it just keeps the listener, the ideas are familiar throughout. We just have 2 rhythmic ideas and 2 chords. That's it. But then the way that the arrangement is built, especially with the orchestration coming in, you still have that feeling that it becomes bigger and bigger, and that it becomes brighter and brighter, and it just lifts you up throughout the song. And that's amazing. It's bouncy, it's infectious, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. And in that way, it kind of goes back to the episode that I did on Biffy Clyro's song Bubbles, where we talked about how that is very efficient songwriting and built from very few minimal ideas. This is a similar thing, because, as I said, we have those 2 rhythmic ideas, and we just have 2 chords, E major and A major. That's it. The entire song is built around that. And so, structure-wise, we have a short intro, which just showcases the first rhythmic idea, and it just rides on 1 chord. Then the band comes in, and we go into what sounds like the main idea, the main riff, which goes over 2 chords, and it's this other rhythmic idea, which is da 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 dong, da 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 dong, dong, da 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 dong, da 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 dong, dong, and then it reverses. Bom 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 ba, dom 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 ba ba, dom 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 ba, dom 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 ba ba. genius. It's catchy as fuck. It's one of the most infectious rhythms I've heard in ages. And even though it's not super complicated, but it's just the right amount of tricky and obvious. It's just perfect. And then we go into the verse. And the verse is based on that first rhythmic idea, but now it goes over 2 chords. And then we go into the chorus, back to rhythmic idea B, to the second one. Then back to the verse, based on the first one. Then a tiny little ambient interlude where the band just pauses for a moment and just, ambient sound and vocals. Could be a pre-chorus. And then back into the chorus, rhythmic idea B. Then the chorus repeats over the same arrangement, but then we add the brass and strings to it, and it just has this added lift-off factor, and everything just becomes enormous. And then that's it. Song's over. Everything has been said that needed to be said. Brilliant. And it sounds like from the recording to the production to the mixing and mastering, only people have been involved who are really on the same page, because all of those elements weave together so effortlessly that it just is hard to imagine that any about this is calculated, or that it maybe was difficult to record any of those. It just sounds so effortless and great. I'm not saying that there were no difficult moments or that this music is easy to play, but it just makes you feel so good and so effortlessly bouncy that you don't think about any of those technicalities at all. And that's the best productions, that's the best mixes, and that's the best recordings where you completely forget about these things and you just listen to the song and how it makes you feel and how it transports you. And the arrangement does something very similar. In other words, it's really good. And what I mean is that you have a very limited palette of ideas and musical elements, and this limited palette is repeated throughout the song. But the arrangement takes care of every part sounding a little bit different, and it just building towards the end, so the listener has the feeling that he's on a journey, and then you start at one point and you arrive at a conclusion. It's like in a movie, right, where you have an exploration or an explanation at the beginning, and then the characters go through some sort of traumatic event, and they become changed, and at the end you have this happy end, which couldn't have been possible without the struggle in between. So this is kind of like songwriting works as well on that level, because you have to make sure that things are progressing. It's not a very pleasant and entertaining movie if nothing happens, but at the same time you don't want to confuse the audience with too many things going on, too many characters, too many ideas, too many plot lines. So this is a simple and efficient song, but still, like, every time we go into a new part, you have the feeling, okay, this is different than before, and it's bigger than before, and I'm still engaged listening to this. And production, recording, mixing, mastering, all of those things work together here to provide that listening experience, which I think is beautiful. And that's why Agent Fresco, with that album, have become, I think, for me, my favorite of all those Nordic prog, if you really want to call it that, genre bands. And I really can't wait to hear what they do next. I think this is their second album, and to me that's a band that probably has their best and brightest future still ahead of them. So I can't wait what they come up with next. What a simple song, but what a genius song. 2 chords, E major, A major, 2 simple but clever rhythmic ideas, and then the rest is really clever production choices, great recording, great band, and this acute pop sensibility of not overstuffing your songs and arrangements, and just making few but the right decisions about what the listeners is supposed to be hearing and how it is supposed to make him feel. And that's the lesson here. And I hope the song is as infectious to you guys as it was for me. And I'll probably be listening to this on plane rides to come for the years to come. So I'll be seeing you next time, and happy listening.